It is time once again for another AEW Dynamite review here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast. Greetings, it is me, Warren Hayes, and we are going to be talking about the last big Dynamite before the big Allin London show. It's the go-home show. It is the August 21 edition of Dynamite, and today is August 22nd. Yeah, I record these the next day. What do you want from me? I like a good night's sleep. I like to wake up the next day with a fresh perspective on things and think, well, do I still feel the same way? And this is where we're at. This is so look, consider liking the video. Actually, I would like you to like the video. That would be tremendous. And subscribe on YouTube. 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. 5-star ratings on Spotify. Everything I do is also available in podcast format. At least when it comes to these reviews in the podcast. So go check that. Like, enjoy and show your enjoyment. Right. Appreciate your enjoyment. Appreciate the fact that my weeping fig here in the background, for those of you with benefit of video right now, is dying. And it's funny, it doesn't look as dire when I'm up close and I'm trying to save it, which clearly I am failing miserably at. But from this distance, with this lighting, it looks complete. It looks like complete trash, doesn't it? It just it's just awful. I think it's on its way out. I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't think it's making it past. I don't think it's making it past winter. Oh boy. Well, we'll find other plants. Anywho, back to the subject at hand. Dynamite. Yeah. I mean, did I enjoy the show? I enjoyed it. I think it did a good job being a go-home show. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think it makes sense. It did a good job being a go-home show. Now, am I going to sit here, and I'll be, slapping my desk in excitement off of the things that I saw? No. I thought it was a successful show on that front. I think wrestling wise, if you're tuning in for action, you were not well served. I think there's one match that really rocked the house. You probably already know which one that is, but the rest in and about itself all set up the show, and that's what it should do, right? That's what it should be. That's what your go home show should do. Needs to set up your big angles for your needs to set up the big matches, right? With some last minute pitches, angles, storytelling, whatever it is you want to put into that melting pot, and just shake it all together and then dump it out. And you gotta cross your fingers that people are gonna come lap it up and they're gonna say yummy, as opposed to not. Who serves food like that? Like this, it's a weird analogy. I'm just realizing that it's a very weird analogy that I was coming up with, because who serves food like that? Where you just stuff things like in a blender and you mix it all together, and then you take the blender and you just like lay it out all on on a table. It's like, enjoy. Like, no one does that. No one will go, yeah, yummy. Everyone would be like, no. Like, it's a very bad analogy. It's as if I was implying that the presentation of the entire show was bad, was dismal, which isn't necessarily the case. I don't think it's the case at all, actually. Bad analogy, Warren. Outside of maple taffy, served on snow. Like, who does that? I don't know how many people listening right now understand even that. Obviously us Canadians understand. I think probably some of the people, some of the folks from the upper, from the northern part of the more northern states of the U.S. is what I'm trying to say. They probably understand this too, right? During maple season time, during maple season, right? When the sap is flowing and maple syrup comes aplenty. At least around here, you can go to the sugar shacks, right? The sugar shacks is where they cultivate the maple syrup and whatnot, and it's on these huge lands, and they always have like a cabin in which you can come in with your family, and they'll serve you like a big traditional, I guess, French Canadian, meal of this time of year, and usually, it's in the winter, so it's these big heavy meals. You get ham and pork sausage and eggs and bacon and rendered fat, and it's one of these things where it's like, a guy like me now probably can't indulge to that stuff anymore. And then at the end, you for dessert you get the pulled taffy. It's not pulled taffy. Let me say that again. The maple taffy on a bed of snow. So they have like a bed of snow set up like in a trough, and then they like pour the maple syrup directly on it, hot maple syrup. So what that does is that it instantly makes the maple syrup cool. So then it becomes really taffy-like. So then they give you a stick, like a popsicle stick, and you roll it. That's a way to serve. See, in that sense, my analogy works. But unless you're not familiar with these practices, then it does sound really weird. Hey, look, I'm trying to save face. Ultimately, I'm trying to make my analogy work. I'm grasping at straws here. I'm doing my best by, introducing you to other cultures. I'm introducing you to other cultures, how other people live. Isn't that exciting? Let's just get on with this. August 21st, 2024 is the Dynamite we're talking about. From the Utilita Arena in Cardiff, Wales, not Cardiff, England. 4,233 tickets distributed for AEW's first appearance in the venue, and in Cardiff as well. I don't think that's not where they went last year, right? Didn't they do everything in London? I don't recall. It doesn't matter. So a good little turnout for the Utilita Arena. It was nice to see and hear a full arena, full crowd. Just hanging out there. It was nice to see, crane shots of the entire place, right? Just not just making sure that the hard cam side is completely cut off. Good, and that is. You see how this is how what we talk about, right? And I promise I'm not going to do a big spiel on ticket sales again this week, okay? I promise. But you see how the vibe of a show changes when a venue is full, when the camera can pan around and show stuff. It just changes everything. No, it's not a big American basketball arena, a 16,000, 17,000 seater, which is filled to capacity. No, it's not this. It's not that. It's not like as striking, but this venue, albeit smaller, was packed. And isn't that what you want? So that your wrestlers feel motivated. The energy is good. You can do all the shots you want in the audience. You're not afraid of showing off the empty seats. That's what I'm telling. That's why I often say it's like I wish AEW would do that more. I mean, it's not as if ticket sales are all that great. Here I am saying, I'm not going to do a thing, But ticket sales for some upcoming shows in September are looking mighty dire, and in markets that AEW has been in before. But they're having trouble cracking 2,000 people in some places, like in Kentucky, I think, in Lexington, right? Which is a place they've been to multiple times, right? It's so strange. Look, the thing is right now, in regards to that, we're saying, AEW is cold, AEW is cold, AEW is cold. Now, they've got some, I feel like right now there's a good simmering of a good buzz happening right now. I think, I think Allin is always, is going to be very interesting. I think the buzz around them holding a stadium show next year in the US is also significant. I think that I think right now, although not everything is perfect, but the creative and the overall booking of Dynamite has been much better in recent weeks. Even, I think it's been very good when it comes to Allin, but even before that, because there's things that were being set up weeks and a couple of months ago that are leading into Allin that is very significant, where I'm like, okay, this is all very good stuff. So, I think there's something to say that AEW might be on the cusp of recapturing something. I think there's going to be a lot of stress that's going to be relieved as far as ticket sales, go, because they're obviously re-signing with WBD at this point, right? I think that's the common acceptance. I've read reports from a couple of insiders. Fightful had a report earlier this week saying that they had received an offer that previous to the current offer they had, they were looking at double what they were getting previously, and now they have another offer on top of that. So they basically shut down. We'll pay you double. TK was like, nah, we're gonna go. And TK's doing media. He's going onto Barstool Sports, and he's got an HBO Max, a Max hat, Max, not HBO Max, just plain old Max. He's got one. He's wearing that. Yeah, it's like, okay, we're here. This is the thing. This is where we're at now. It's going to happen, and it's probably, releasing a lot of stress, and maybe then people are able to focus on just being creative, doing some proper booking, putting things together, so, with builds and what. Look, this is, I think we can all agree, I believe, that All In is going to be AEW's WrestleMania. That's going to be the big show, the travel show, the stadium show that they're going to put on annually, and they want it to be a big deal, right? I think we can all agree on that, I believe. And, in that respect, in respect to the build for All In, everything was well done. Like, there's some proper booking going on, because look, everything on the show has a story. I talked about this on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast this week, but every single match on this card has a story. You cannot entertain anyone telling you that on this show there is only they're just throwing matches together. Everything on this card has been built. There's a story to it. Were the executions all perfect? No. Are all the stories super compelling in it? No. But you can see signs that AEW is finally getting all of their creative ducks in a row. All of these people sitting in the writer's room on these on these conference calls, they're finally all streamlining stuff and getting their stuff together. I think it's been perceptible, and I think it's particularly evident in how All In was booked, the approach to it. I think it's very clear. Everything had a direction. Like I said on Tuesday, I would kind of like things to not have so many stories, because I, unlike the majority of weirdos who do not watch the product regardless, I do not mind if there is a slapdash match put together just because it's cool. Because that I always thought was one of the strengths that AEW had, as opposed to WWE, where WWE doesn't do that. They don't slapdash cool matches together. Everything has to have a meaning, a tale, and it's a yarn around it. It has to, sometimes it gets really heavy-handed leading into the match, right? You just don't tune in a week and you've got, this match from out of nowhere, right? Whereas AEW has a history of doing that. All the way back to the TNT, to Cody Rhodes and his TNT title run, where he was doing the open challenge, right? The ones that got Ricky Starks and Eddie Kingston their jobs. You remember that, right? There's always been that in AEW. So, honestly, I don't need everything to have a story. Just, you can have a cool match once in a while. You don't want that all the time, because then it loses its flair. And besides, you're going to run out of cool matches. Then they stop being cool matches, because now you're just putting dudes together, right? You just, you're making that stuff happen. So I don't know. Look, the point being is that the booking was clear and everything. This is, I think, the main quality of last night's Dynamite is that everything felt purposeful. Everything felt like it had an objective, a target, and that kind of stuff usually comes only when you have some vision in your booking, some long-term plans being laid out, or at least midterm, right? I don't know how long we're going with AEW. I think, and I'll maintain this, the only long-term booking that still exists in AEW is everything that has to do with Hangman Adam Page. That's the only thing. I'm a proponent of this. I still believe it. The only guy who truly benefits from exceptional, long-term, well-put-together booking is Hangman Adam Page. That is every single time. Outside of that, I don't know. I don't know how much there is some long-term stuff happening, but all of this is very good. Let's just get into it. Let's just go with the show, especially, peek behind the curtain. I've got a time crunch here today. I can't extend to an hour and 20 minutes like I did last week. I'm going to try and keep this around the 50 to 60 minute mark, but if I'm just rambling on and sidebarring all the time, we'll never get to it. But let's get to it. Let's get to this Cardiff show that opened with Tony Schiavone in the ring for the contract signing. Oh, God. Bold move to start off your show with some paperwork. You got to love, pens. You got to love protractors. Did they have protractor? I don't know if they had. Document sleeves. Conference room chairs. Black catering tablecloths. You gotta appreciate all of that. So we start off the show not on a great note with the most creatively bankrupt segment in the history of pro wrestling. Many of you who have listened to the show in the past know my deep and resounding hatred for contract signings. I think let's just recap my thoughts on the thing, shall we? I think contract signings are creatively bankrupt. It shows a lack of imagination. I don't understand when you have a bunch of creative people who are supposed to be creating things and coming up with ideas that this still exists, that we still think that this is a good idea. They're overdone, so they have no impact. They follow a formula. It is very rare that formula is broken. The formula being, challenger talks, or, one of the two, either champion or challenger talks, then the other responds, then there's a response to that and a response to that response, and then the table breaks, or someone gets put through the table, or the table gets flipped. There's some altercation, some sort of violence, It's dumb. It's dumb and it sucks. And in kayfabe, they don't make sense. Because they had been advertising. Just think about it in kayfabe. The promotion is advertising Mercedes Moné versus Britt Baker. And they've been doing this for weeks. But are you telling me the contract for this match was not signed? And all the things that I think would make contract signings much more interesting, they never do them. They never do. Now, there's some that are fun. They happen on occasion, but overall, they're like this one here. They're like the one we got yesterday on that Dynamite. I thought it was a rote, boring, uninspired contract signing. You know, there's not supposed to be any physicality. What is that supposed to mean then? There's going to be physicality. Like, what? Am I new? I'm not new to this. I see this shit coming a mile away. So this was not good. Britt Baker has one good line, I thought, in this where she tells Mercedes that she's the gold standard, and Mercedes, you know, back in the day she was one of four and I am one of one. You know, regardless of what you specifically can feel and think about Britt Baker and the rumors that swirl around her, like, which are absolutely bonkers. The amount of dislike and rumors and that appear and perpetuate on social media about Britt Baker. It's nuts, the amount of stuff. No matter what you think of her, she is very much the foundation of the women's division. She said it, and it's true. And I don't know what else there is to say. This woman, while injured, was the biggest star of the division. She was in a wheelchair for months, and she was the biggest star of the women's division nonetheless. She was the most compelling face, the most compelling force. Like, you know, sometimes, like, I get it. It's her locker room. It's her spot. I understand that. I'm with that. So when she talks about, you know, her being one of one, sure. I get it. I absolutely get it. Anyway, then, you know, they do the nonsense, and then Britt says, okay, I can't swing at you, Mercedes, but I can swing at Camille. I'm like, okay. So she takes a swing at Camille, and then just a corny finish where she shoves Camille onto Mercedes, who's still sitting down. She threw the blotter into Camille, into Mercedes' face or whatever. And then she crossbodies over the table onto the, you know, and I'm like, what are we doing? It doesn't matter. This sucks. Like, this was not good. Not a good start to the show. But, you know, one last go for the big match. But I don't know if if Britt's suspension derailed the build here. But this build could have been a lot more compelling. And again, look, I've never hidden the fact that I like Britt a lot, that I think she gets a lot of nonsense from fans online for things that, you know, she has nothing to do with. There's things that happen that you know, it's okay, and I'm sure she owns it, and it's fine. But there's a lot of shit that she puts up with that she shouldn't have to. You know, so yeah, you know, we're a very pro Britt Baker podcast, is what I'm trying to say here. But I don't think Britt's heart is into this. Like, I'm not feeling it. Last week when she did we talked about it last week, and I practically lost my mind at how tepid her entrance to her arrival to attacking Mercedes Moné was. It's just, she just arrives, she walks in, she doesn't run to the ring, she's not rushing, she's fiddling around with her gloves. Like, there's no There's nothing active about this. I'm like, what are we doing? Hit the bricks. Let's you know, get some life into this. What are you doing, Britt? This is a huge match. You know, she's complaining that, you know, Max gets an hour to wrestle, right? Or allegedly she did, and gets into trouble about it. But then it's her segment where she's involved, and she's not bothered to show any verve. I don't know, and I didn't feel like we've seen Britt Baker better than this, more alive than this. Is it the fact that she's supposed to be the babyface that's turning? I don't know. Maybe that's the fact that it's not quite working out. I don't know. We've already talked about it too much. Renee Paquette is backstage with Chris Jericho and the Learning Tree guys, and he admits that there was something that was bothering him on his flight to Cardiff, England, and that was perfect. He just let it slide, you know. He took a short pause, just to make sure he punctuated that, but didn't like take a long pause to allow the reaction, right? He took a short pause as Cardiff, England, and then he continued. And the crowd was erupting, right? They were like, oh, this, you know, son of a bitch. And he was wondering, you know, how Tommy, I like this, where he's like, where does Tommy Billington get off calling himself Dynamite Kid? You know, just because it's his birthright to call himself the Dynamite Kid? Where does he get off? I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. It's stupid and fun. That leads us to the match where Chris Jericho defeated the Dynamite Kid, Tommy Billington. It's just crazy how much he looks like his uncle. Like, if it was his father, right? It's, you know, so it almost, you know, look, we're not opening that up. Never mind. We're just skipping over this. We're not. I am on a time crunch. I don't want to start going down multiple goofy sidebars for entertainment's sake here. Stick to the plan, Warren. But it is kind of bonkers how much he looks, and he wrestles like the Dynamite Kid. You know, it's not like, and you know, whenever, you know, when Jericho says, you know, and I think even Taz said it on commentary, you know, Dynamite Kid is one of the greatest of all time, and this is absolutely true. I'm not saying that Tommy Billington right now is as good a wrestler as the Dynamite Kid was. That's insane. Like, that's just nuts. It's the standard is way too high, and it is tremendously unfair to this kid who's, you know, still very young and still in the learning phases of his career. He's a very good wrestler. You know, we just can't, you know, it would just be completely unfair to immediately draw comparisons. Well, no, he doesn't wrestle like Dynamite Kid, but he does though, and he's got the little snap in what he does. He's got that little extra. But he doesn't have that little, you know, that little aggression, that little, you know, spitefulness that Dynamite used to have. We know why, because he was an asshole. He was a spiteful asshole, right? So, you know, he doesn't quite have that. I mean, he still has time to figure things out. Will he ever be as good as Dynamite Kid? I don't know. You know, chances are not, because you're comparing him to legitimately one of the greatest wrestlers to ever do it. So, you know, we'll have to watch this kid's career progress, but you look at this match here and it's like, this guy's very good. He's very, very good, you know, and he's got the little snap suplex, which was a Dynamite Kid trademark. I mean, this is a good little match. I enjoyed it. That Chris Jericho won, catching Billington out of the air into a code breaker as Billy, you know. And here's the other one more little thing. I understand that, you know, Tommy Billington is paying an homage to his uncle. I understand, and that's why he does, you know, the diving headbutt, right? But I wish he didn't, because that is also the move that paralyzed, part of the reason, right? It's also part of the moveset that paralyzed, that ended up paralyzing Dynamite. Probably had some repercussions on Chris Benoit as well. Look, there's a lot to be said of diving headbutts in pro wrestling, and I always cringe when I see them. I do remember Harley Race disavowing the move and said, because he's widely regarded as being the originator, and I remember him saying that he regrets inventing it or popularizing it. I don't remember exactly the word he used, but he did regret it down the line for all the damage that it's done to his peers, to his contemporaries, and that's the only thing, right? That's the only thing that I just have an issue with, because it makes me cringe. It makes me cringe because I know there's a very bad history attached to the diving headbutt, and I wish he didn't do it. That being said, good little match. After the match, Hook shows up. Jericho cuts a promo on Hook. Hook shows up. They get face to face. They start. They do a face to face, but Big Bill attacks Hook and just drives him through the ring with a, figuratively speaking, with a choke slam. Of course, they have a match on Collision, which has already been taped. We're not talking spoilers here, folks, but because commentary did say that there was a match on Collision, so you can mention that without talking about the result. But if you are a savvy pro wrestling fan, you probably already know the result to that. Then we had Toni Storm retaining the AEW Women's World Championship against Saraya. Saraya is in a, she's in a fine spot right now. Like going from winning the World Championship at Wembley last year, the Women's World Championship, to, just being a nice little mid-card, wrestler. I think that's fine. It's a good role for her. And if she's just waiting out, I saw her come out in the Cardiff crowd last night, and I thought she had boo-boo face on. I was like, she was probably upset. She's probably upset about all of this, that she's not being positioned higher on. Look, you won the freaking world title last year just to give you a moment to for the local crowd to be happy. What more do you want? It's fine. Like that is absolutely the peak of her AEW career. I don't know what happens once her contract is up, but if AEW wanted to do, Saraya can go off into the sunset, and we can focus more on Harley Cameron, who has great charisma, who has a fantastic personality, and can go. Good little wrestler for someone who's been doing this for 3 years. I think there's untapped potential in Harley Cameron, and I'm excited to see what. That's someone that I would try to invest a little more time in anyway. There's not much to this match. A lot of shtick. Now, here's the thing. I thought this match was. I don't think there was anything really there. It's just like stuff happening, and Saraya's really slow. And what do you want from me? Toni Storm is trying to juice it up, and she has to deal with Saraya. Okay, whatever. Here's the thing, though. When I was previewing the pay-per-view this weekend, I mentioned that I was hoping, in Toni Storm's like mental crisis would lead her back to, abandoning the timeless stuff and being black and red Toni Storm, right? In the original, the OG, how everyone, especially in the UK, got to know her, right? And that's clearly not in the cards, I don't think, because she's back out in full timeless Toni gear. And on top of that, doing the shtick, I was not impressed. I was like, oh, okay, this kind of sucked. So, maybe they'll do it, but I think there's a fair chance that that we're still gonna have timeless Toni Storm moving forward, as opposed to her going back to a gimmick where that people already love. That everyone who doesn't love Toni Storm, like who doesn't love might be a little who doesn't like Toni Storm, like who I'm hard pressed to find anyone saying, yeah, Toni Storm stinks. It's like, I don't like Toni Storm. I think people don't like the timeless gimmick, but even the people who I know don't like the timeless gimmick take the time to establish the fact that they still like Toni Storm, that she's one of the best women's wrestlers on the planet right now. And they always seem to preface that by saying, we love Toni Storm, we hate the gimmick. So, but then again, Tony Khan loves the gimmick. I think there's been better reactions to the gimmick because, or the gimmick isn't as reviled as it once was, because Tony was able to find a balance between doing shtick and having great matches again. Whereas for a while, the problem with the gimmick was that there was so much shtick in ring that it was just taking away from Toni Storm giving us Toni Storm matches. So I don't know. It turns out I might be wrong. My feeling, my instinct might be off here, because they completely abandoned the mental crisis she was in. And now she's back to being timeless Toni. Oh, it's whatever, right? And after the match, Mariah May blindsides Toni with the shoe, and then she there's a lot of kissing in this match too. I forgot to mention. We're back to the kissing. People pop for the smooches. They like themselves the old lip lock, the old puckaroo. They like that. So, yes, and Mariah, back to Mariah May attacking. I can't emphasize how cold this match has become, and it's baffling because of how incredibly hot the angle was. That now it's kind of like, and I think it's because they were too contrived. They tried too hard instead of just letting things flow. Things were built on hatred in this feud. It was built off of jealousy, disgust, hatred, whatever, just like these primal feelings. And now we're doing there was also, Mariah just should have continued. They could have maintained the classiness, whatever they're doing here, like the glamour thing that they're doing, right? The glamour. That's what she's calling herself now. They could have done that, but then her having like this side to her, which is psychotic, like an American Psycho type of thing. And, beating her opponents up to a bloody pulp, why couldn't she have had, enhancement matches with local talent, and the local talent, runs the razor for her because she beats the shit out of them after the match or something. Just keep that level of intensity, because this feud went from 10 to 2, and Toni tried her best when she was unhinged to try and bring something out of this, but there's I don't know. Talked about it on the preview. I'm not going to rehash everything here, but nice little last ditch effort. But Renee Paquette is backstage with the conglomeration. Mark Briscoe cuts a promo, and they also have Willow Nightingale there. And you're looking at look, listen to this. You have Tomohiro Ishii, you have Kyle O'Reilly, Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, Willow Nightingale. And they're all like, yeah, we're a group. I'm like, okay, this kind of rules, actually. The most, that's the idea behind the conglomeration, right? Just the most random people all coming together. We got to be careful with the cool guy Kyle stuff. I don't know, doing the accent and whatnot. I don't know. That I don't think it connected on the same way people thought it did, or that they expected it to. But Mark Briscoe is tremendous per usual. So he wants a match on Collision, and there's all sorts. Tomohiro Ishii is teaming with Willow on a stipulation match, to get a stipulation for the CMLL World Women's Championship. It's all good stuff. I like this. Then we get the big Will Ospreay MJF promo off. Big reactions for Will, as one was to expect, of course. But the Cardiff loves the Ospreay. Talks about his history working in Wales, and Will does, of course, talks about his history there, and it says that on Sunday it's about cleaning up MJF's mess, quoting UK pitchman Barry Scott, saying "bang" and the dirt is gone. She's got a big sing along from the audience there as well. MJF says, people chant his name twice as loud as they do Will's, while the audience chants a "Who are you?" chant, which I thought was funny. Then we get, some back and forth. Max calls Will arrogant. Ospreay tells him to look in the mirror and shove it up his bell end, and then bell end chants ensue. Will talks about how AEW is catered to people who like pro wrestling, but then Max was world champion and everyone started laughing at him. So we're really going hard. We're really going hard on the idea that Max was perceived as a joke during the Brochacho era, during the babyface era last year, which is odd because, well, not odd. I was on that train. I didn't like the Brochacho stuff. I really didn't. I think it was a detriment to what AEW was doing, and I do believe that they did end up losing audience. They did end up losing watchers because of all that nonsense, and all of the nonsense that he did back then, where everyone was trying to convince that it was cool. Now the babyface, arguably the top babyface of the company, we can have that discussion. Will Ospreay, of course, he's here saying, the kangaroo kick, the double clothesline. He was talking about the double clothesline specifically. Yeah, that made us chuckle and laugh. All of us, me and my mates, and everyone watching the business. But it went too long. So the babyface is burying babyface stuff that was happening last year, saying that it was corny, ultimately. I think that's an interesting about face. But look, he keeps, we keep bringing up the feeling. Will Ospreay says he's the feeling, and he wants to return that. This is a place for pro wrestling. And I understand, and I only wish AEW believed that and was confident enough to assume that position, because he used all the buzzwords, wrestling, the restore the feeling, we're an alternative, he's using all the right words, all the things that most, including myself, most pundits will tell you is the problem with AEW is that it had been looking for an identity and settled on, we just do goofy, we do sports entertainment, but there's also good wrestling. It's like, I wish they'd believe sincerely what Will Ospreay is saying, because, with everything that's happening with the Young Bucks, for instance, I don't believe that they believe what they're saying, if that makes sense. Um. Anyway, they have some back and forth, talking about a lot of stuff. MJF brings up the Tiger Driver 91 and that he's not man enough to pull the trigger. This is absolutely going to be something that is going to annoy me this Sunday. It's going to annoy me, and I am so excited for this Tiger Driver 91 stuff to be done. I'm so stoked about it. I hope Max, not Max, but I hope Will pulls it out in every match of his moving forward. I really do. Ospreay says, we talk about that. He talks about, here's an important part though. Ospreay says it only took him 4 years to become the best in the world, to go around the world, go to Japan, to America, I've been up and down England and Europe, ask anyone, they'll say I'm the best in the world. It took what Ospreay said is it took 4 years for MJF to win people over, and it took 4 beats of his music for Ospreay to win those people over. And that's when MJF screams into his face that they loved him until you showed up, which is into the insecurity that MJF exhibits from the very onset of his character, which I think is a nice little through line. I appreciate this. Yeah. It's always been the essence in every feud that he's been in, Max, that this insecurity that he feels about his spot, about how fans react to him. And I think it's also a legitimate part of his personality as well. But I also think that he handles it better than a lot of his peers as well, because last year, you could tell that he was very insecure about the response to the Brochacho stuff. But he took that criticism to heart and he pivoted instead of insisting. And that's what criticism is for. And I think Max is we talk a lot about the insecurity, but it also takes a lot of confidence. It takes a lot of self-assurance to take criticism and receive it, mull over it, and adapt yourself based on that criticism, as opposed to just like, no, I'll do what I want, which is a common through line in pro wrestling. Then Max implies that he's been sleeping with Alex Windsor, yes, but with Will Ospreay's wife. He said that after talking to his wife, he's got a feeling the next kid she has won't be Will's either. And you see, this is also what's great with Max, is that the insecurity pours in. What does he do? He goes for the low blows. He goes for the low hanging fruit. I am an MJF enjoyer. I will continue to enjoy this stuff. I think there's no issues from me. When he does this is because he feels he's got no other recourse. He's got to do the low hanging fruit. He's got to go for the gut. I'm okay with this. And it pisses off Ospreay to the point where Ospreay tells Schiavone, because they also had a deal where they weren't going to get physical. And then Ospreay looks to Tony Schiavone, says, "You've got Tony Khan in your ear. Ask him what the size of the fine is if I clock him." Tony Khan responds to Tony Schiavone, giving him the fine amount in pounds. So, and then converts it for the rest of us schlubs, which is 100,000 pounds, which was what, $127,000 American, which is even more in Canadian. Anyway, and Ospreay's like, yeah, you know what, it's worth it. And they fight each other, and Max sneakily, takes advantage of everyone trying to split them up to clock Ospreay over the head with the Dynamite Diamond Ring, which of course busts Will open. So and then he goes to try the Tiger Driver 91. but that gets broken apart by security and whatnot. So, you know what? I like this. I like this a lot. I thought it was a good segment. I kind of felt, for at least the first part, I thought Max was having an off night. I feel like he didn't have the verve that he usually has in these circumstances. There was something a little missing, but he found his groove as it progressed. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this promo off quite a bit. And I thought it's the best possible thing you could do leading into the show this weekend, to this match. This match has been very well built. This match has been extremely well built. I have no issues with it, no qualms. This is a match that I'm excited to see. Renee Paquette is with Hangman Adam Page. He says he's in the casino gauntlet match at Allin, and then he runs into Evil Uno, and Evil Uno says, "Hey, Hanger, we used to be friends. Remember that?" And Hangman attacks him with a chair. Here's the thing with the basically, Hangman attacked him because he said he wants a shot at the world title. He wants Swerve, who's the champion right now. This is he's ready to go through everyone and anyone to get it, right? Now, here's what I think about. I love the idea of the gauntlet match. I think it's great, but I think one of the things that make it really fun is that you don't know who the participants are. I think that's the big hook. And the more you announce who is in it, the less interesting it becomes. And I know there's this fine line where you have to be, we have to announce some stars if we want people to get excited about it. Like there's nothing wrong with calling with adding Paige to it and saying, Paige is going to be in it, right? I think it's a smart move actually, but we already know Kyle is going to be it. Orange Cassidy, of course, Roderick Strong. Like, I think the gauntlet match is most successful when you don't know who's joining in. So we already know 4 people who are going to be in it. There's going to be more, but how many more we don't know. But it's fine. It's fine that Paige is announced for it. So we're not getting the Jarrett match, and that's fine with me. And you already know why. I'm not going to rehash this again, especially since, guess what? I'm going long. AEW Continental title match. Kazuchika Okada defeated Claudio Castagnoli. I thought this was a good, strong match. I thought I love the control segments here that both guys had. Landing, they started landing European uppercuts into each other, and Okada lands a DDT. They tumble to the floor. Okada avoids the neutralizer, but then gets into a gut wrench and thrown across the ring. He then fights back on Claudio and lands a drop kick and an elbow drop as well, the big elbow drop. Big swing by Claudio follows as well. There's a good stretch of back and forth that I really, really liked, which ends with Okada reversing out of a neutralizer with an air raid crash, which was actually kind of cool. Pop-up uppercut by Claudio. Crowd goes nuts. We think it's over, but Okada rolls to the floor, tries to delay, which kind of works. We get to the 20-minute time limit. It's people go, they didn't tell us about the 20-minute time limit. This has been the Continental Classic rules. It's the Continental Classic rules, 20-minute time limit all throughout. So it's fine. Like you're just not paying attention. That's all. It's fine. I like this, and I like the draw. And this is all going to spill. I think they're going to run this again at All Out. I think they're going to run this at All Out again. This is my gut. This feud must continue, trademark, because when the rest of the elite come out, to sort of go after Claudio and then FTR and Darby Allin. You know, when they transition to the next match, which I loved, by the way. I like this, how there's one match. It seems like this is a new thing on Dynamite, where there's one match that just starts, that sort of melds into the previous one and then leads to the other match. I really like that. And the way they do it, you know, where it's like, it's a scheduled match. It's not as if this match is going to start right here, right now. It's not one of those. It's a scheduled match. It's the next one that was set up. But, you know, we didn't get the Elite and full entrance and all that stuff. It's just like, let's do it. And then Darby Allin and FTR came out. And there was a bit of a schmoz. So the match started with a schmoz. And I'm going to get back to Claudio and Okada. Don't worry. Everyone is fighting. You know, everyone's paired off. FTR and the Bucks and Darby and Jack Perry. And meanwhile, Okada and Claudio are brawling to the back. So that's a sign to you that this feud must continue. And I think they're going to run it again. And they're probably going to run it again at All Out. And I'm okay with this. Let's do it again. Like, I thought this match was very good. If they want to do a proper pay-per-view match out of this, maybe this is what this was the order. It's like, go, but don't go too hard. Save it for the big show. Hey, that's fine. I know a lot of people are upset that Okada is not on the Wembley card, which is understandable. But you got to keep some stuff for the Chicago show 2 weeks later. I'm so happy that we are not going to have this issue. I'm so happy that we're not going to have this issue next year, because Allin is going to be so much earlier in July. You know, anyway, again. So this led into, as we mentioned, Darby Allin and FTR defeating the Elite, which was, of course, the Young Bucks and Jack Perry. I thought this was fine, a good little match. I thought this was it really started to pick up as well towards the end. You know, of course, Darby Allin is babyface in peril until Dax gets a good little hot tag in, and you know they do triple sharpshooters. The baby faces do, and there's a hell of a dive by Cash onto the floor, just like one of these absolute reckless dives onto all three guys on the floor. Jack Perry lands a Scorpion Death Drop on Allin, Shatter Machine on Jack Perry, but the match comes to an end with the Powerplex and the Coffin Drop onto Matt Jackson, of course, for the win. I think this means that the Bucks retain. And then after the match, the Acclaimed come out to cut a promo. And I can't tell you how much I have nothing for the Acclaimed. It does nothing for me. This is probably the match I am least interested in on the card that has the potential to be good, because the Bucks are way too good. FTR's way too good. I don't know about the Acclaimed. The Acclaimed are fine. Don't get me wrong. They're fine, but they're fine, you know? But I just can't handle their gimmick anymore. Like, to me, it's so corny and dumb. Anyway. Nonetheless, it forwarded the story, did a lot of story forwarding here. And then we have Renee Paquette, who is checking up on Will Ospreay. Bryan Danielson comes over to Ospreay and sort of to scold him, and he says, "Do it." You know, and then I realized that Bryan Danielson is wearing the same flannel shirt he was wearing when WWE forced him to retire years ago. He's wearing the exact same flannel shirt, and I'm like, oh my God, he kept it. Like, he kept it. He stored it away. He put it somewhere, and it's in his closet. It's in a box. It's whatever. And he was like, I still have that shirt. And he put it on. It's like, hey, it still fits. I'm going to wear this tonight. Because then we have the face-off moderated by Nigel McGuinness, where he introduces Swerve Strickland first, puts him over big time on top of that, and relents introducing Danielson, and instead starts asking Swerve some questions, such good questions that he should be part of a media. It sounds like he's a part of a post wrestling show media scrum. You know, basically, yeah, and you know, Swerve runs down his accomplishments, the people that he's beaten, the way, you know, that he's the most dangerous guy in AEW. This is what he's been doing, right? And and now he says he can't feel but a little disrespected because, you know, all Danielson is talking about is how he's ready for retirement. But he's like, look, you got to go through. I'm going to take care of your retirement. I'm going to put you in the ground. And I kind of like that. And the problem that I have with now, okay, so Swerve is back to being to leaning more heel, which makes sense because of the situation. It makes a lot of sense. But the thing with heel Swerve is that he suddenly becomes, sometimes, not suddenly becomes, but sometimes his promos are a little too super villain-like, if that makes sense. He gets too super villainy. That's essentially the thing, is that he just becomes a little too, a little too twirly mustache kind of thing. And I think Swerve benefits, just like everyone in this company, I find, when it comes to promos, and in general, really, in professional wrestling, everyone benefits when you can be more authentic, when you do something that resonates true, as opposed to the opposite, where it comes across as more contrived, right? And you could not have a bigger dichotomy, or example of that, I should say, when Danielson comes out, right? Because he's mad because, you know, Swerve is talking about his family again and so on and so forth. So you know, so the American Dragon comes out and he's pissed off, and the promo that he cuts is the exact opposite of Swerve, where then it's real, it's natural, you feel like it's an authentic. You feel the authenticity just coming out, because it feels connected. It feels exactly what Bryan Danielson would say in this type of situation. And when he's at the end and he's talking about, you know, a lot of people throw this around, you know, like as a meme or something, but I'm gonna say it because it's true. I'm the greatest fucking professional wrestler in the world. And you're like, you believe it. And the more he talks, the more people get excited, the more people get up on their feet. That crowd was completely in the palm of Danielson's hand last night. So it was a good segment to get the crowd fired up and to drive home one more time that Bryan Danielson is winning this weekend. Okay, but it's also a clear, like, demonstration that it's a clear demonstration of two completely different promo styles, and that to me is the most telling of it all, right? And that's my main takeaway from this, where Danielson is very authentic and real, and Swerve keeps, you know, he used to call himself the realist, right? Wasn't it him? Right? I think so. And he, you know, part of his gimmick is like bringing, you know, reality into this, right? Talking, you know, doing the home invasions and talking about family and stuff like that, and just being very brutal and being, you know, kept mentioning that he's going to cripple him and cripple Daniel, like all things that are, you know, it's very serious subject matter, but, you know, then he does the supervillain laugh, and, you know, Swerve, I find, would benefit from being less performative. And I'm saying this, it's a bit of a high level criticism, because I'm not destroying the guy, because I think Swerve is great. You know, and he will have been a very good world champion. I think he ended up having a pretty good run as world champion. I'm talking as if it's done, but, you know, let's get real here. So, you know, it's, you know, we finish all of this with Swerve, you know, at the top of the ramp. He's he's mouthing, stuff. He's holding up the belt and whatnot. Meanwhile, Danielson is having, he's got the yes chants going. I'm telling you, Danielson finishes up Wembley. Final countdown plays as he hoists the AEW World Championship above his head, and he's got 50,000 people pointing at the sky, shouting yes at the top of their lungs. If you can't feel the vibes on that one, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. It's gonna be special. It's gonna be special. But I liked it. I liked the final promo. Like I said, it wrapped up the show well, and on a show which advanced everything as it should for the main event, for the main show. This weekend. All sorts of stuff had to be done, and we got it done. So congratulations. Was everything super successful? No. They did stuff. The intent was there in some circumstances. They got stuff done in some circumstances, and in others it didn't quite work out as well as the execution didn't quite work out. That stuff happens. It's pro wrestling. What do you want? But nonetheless, that's what we got, and that's what you get today. Wrapping up this pretty good edition of Dynamite. I enjoyed myself. Had a good little time. I hope you had a good little time listening to this. So we are going to wrap it up for today. Thank you all very much for watching. If you liked it, a like would be great. If you disliked it, that's fine. Go right ahead and dislike it. It's your opinion, and you're entitled to share your feelings. There you go. I'll be back on Tuesday for a live recording of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Of course, it's going to be the big breakdown of AEW Allin. So be sure that you're there for that. Otherwise, have a great rest of your week. Thank you for watching and listening, and I will see you next